Hello there, and a warm welcome to Align with Arlene, Series 2, The Art of Healing. I am delighted to introduce you to the wonderful Luci Lenox. Luci is an international casting director. She has cast over 100 productions. She has amongst her clients Netflix, Amazon, Lionsgate, BBC, Hulu, to name but a few. And she also works with independent Spanish producers. And Luci has also created a very beautiful platform called Actors Home for actors internationally to get in touch and to really hone their craft and see if it's the right world for them. And she's come on today to share with us how it felt to begin her journey with being a casting director and to share some wise words of wisdom.
Hopefully wise, with words anyway.
Well, so I can edit out wise if you want.
That's all right.
Thank you so much for being here. It means the world. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome, and I'm very happy to be here, and very happy always to chat with you.
Oh, likewise. So what I would like you to tell us first, please, is, was it always your goal to be a casting director? Was that always the aim? Was it a burning passion in you from a child?
Not at all, not at all.
Okay.
It's one of the things I talk about quite a lot with actors and also other creative people, is that there's some jobs or professions, like being an actor or an artist, and I think also a director, that are vocational. And being a casting director is not at all vocational. I don't know anybody who at school says, oh, I want to be a casting director, unless I guess their family, their parents work. And I do know some people who work in casting and whose parents also worked in casting. But it's a very nice job, and it's a very good job. And I think that I would definitely recommend it as a career, but it's not something that people have a burning passion to do. And it's very important, I think, when actors are dealing with casting directors, that they remember that, because casting directors don't, and also the industry, actors have to be very careful to protect themselves, because they're so keen on working that they'll work for free, that they'll undersell themselves, that they'll go to an audition for anything. Just this week, I've been helping some actors who were, one actor was very concerned about her friend because she'd been approached and said if she paid, she could be in this very star-studded film. And I'm like, it can't be true. But her friend wanted to believe it so much that she was getting angry with her friend, saying, no, this is not true.
Wow.
And, I helped them to investigate. And of course, it wasn't true, because a reputable film would never ask an actor to pay to be in it. No. But actors have that desire to believe it. So, no, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to save the world. I wanted to help. I had a very strong sense of, I wanted to help people less fortunate than me. But I didn't realize that if you help the poor, you became poor. And I think it's very difficult to explain this to people in the context of today's society, because I graduated from university in 1990. So I hand wrote all my exams. We didn't have internet. We didn't have, computers in the same way as we have now. I'm one of the last generation that has a lump on their writing finger, on their index finger. I can still feel the pain of writing my final exams.
Wow, that's a memory to keep.
Yeah, and I think you can tell that. You can, when in a million years' time, when they exhume our bodies for research, they'll be able to tell who was pre-computers in terms of their studying. So when I graduated, there was a recession on. I'm from Ireland, but I went to university in England and in Spain. But I kind of always thought I'd go home, or I'd moved back to London. Okay. I went to London as well. And then I suddenly discovered that the jobs that I wanted didn't pay enough for me to live the life that I wanted to live, which is important for my own personal happiness.
Sure.
And B, they didn't actually, open me with welcome arms. I thought that, I was just enough of writing off, dear Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith, I am available. And then they would write back and say, great, start on Monday.
Yeah.
I was like, I got 2 letters, I think, which said, oh, we've had 5,000 applicants and you're on file. We'll be in touch.
Wow.
And it's so weird now. I found one of the letters the other day because I was going through some files, because of course it was all by letter then, not by email. And I found the letters and it would say, oh, we'll be in touch or something like that. And I just took that as a rejection. I just, they didn't want me. Whereas now, having the confidence I have now, I'd be like, I would be chasing them. I'd be like, hey, great. When can I come in?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'd be much more, I'd be much less kind of like despondent, I think.
Yeah.
But so then I moved back to Spain. It's a very, very, very long story, so we definitely don't have time to do it all in one podcast. But I went to live in Italy for a while, then I came back to Spain. And then when I came back to Spain, I ran nightclubs for a very long time in the 90s in Barcelona. And I was involved with very kind of a bohemian world of helping artists, helping fashion designers. I produced their events. I produced all kinds of very strange things in very, very late at night.
I was looking at that actually. It looks amazing.
Yeah. And then I worked with the Furel Spouse, a very, very well-known Spanish theatre company. I was on tour with them, and then I did some work. Then I went back to London. I worked a little bit with MTV. But I think it's very interesting when you told me about talking to me as a creative, because I actually don't really consider myself a creative. I consider myself a very, very practical person. And then I did a course only about 2 years ago with a non-verbal communicator, Sonia El Hakim, who's one of the top experts in non-verbal communication in Spain. And we were doing work. The people who do her courses tend to be like football coaches, estate agents. It's just something I love studying. And we were doing an exercise on metaphors. And the man that I was working with couldn't do a metaphor. The metaphor had to be like, this phone represents the stream of communication, something very simple. And I was like, and I just couldn't understand why he couldn't get it. And then Sonia said to me, because you're creative. And I'm like, but I'm not creative. And then she said, oh, but you are. And then we talked about it. And then I realized that because I'm not as creative as the people I work with, it's a comparison thing.
Yeah.
And I'm quite creative. Or no, I belong to the creative world, but I sometimes feel like I'm the translator between the creative world and the real world, because I have a very good relationship with my bank. I have a very good relationship. Some of my best friends are accountants, and I really like those kind of people who have a practical, organized approach to life. And I love creative people, and I'm very empathetic, but it's not, my own self-belief isn't that I'm the creative, it's that I'm a conduit for creatives. And it was an interesting thing. Yeah. and it's a part of the learning process. And in the same way, I only realized this very, very recently, that I've always thought I'm a very good communicator. And then I realized it's because my family are extremely bad at communicating. So I'm the best of a bad bunch. And then I realized I had to do a lot more work on communicating, and which I'm doing. And I think one of my messages to people is definitely to think that communication is something that you have to study and that you can get better at it. Because a lot of my generation say, oh, I'm not good at communicating, or communication is a problem. And I'm like, yes, but you can actually, it is something that you can improve. But you have to really study it, because there's lots of things in your patterns that become from your family that if you don't examine, you don't realize that you do them wrong, or that they're not compatible with other people. And that's something that I have to continually work on, and particularly because I live in a culture where I wasn't grown up. So there are things that happen in Spain where I live, the way people communicate and the way I communicate, that are not actually compatible.
I absolutely understand that. I mean, I'm in Spain as well, and it is so interesting how we almost have to unlearn programs from our family, or kind of ancestral patterns almost. It's like the imprints of how we've learned, because that's all we had to learn. We learn from watching, don't we? We learn from seeing when we're a child, when we're such a sponge. So I love that. I think you're an amazing communicator.
Thank you.
That's okay.
But I think I'm very good at communicating like we are now. I'm very good at, yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm a good communicator. I think I'm a very good teacher in terms of because you've done a course with me.
I agree. Yeah.
I think that on my personal level and with my friends and with my family, I could be a much better communicator. And I've always thought that I was, I think it's something about when you learn that you've always got something to learn. There's things, for example, it's very easy to explain. And I was studying, trying to remember the name of it's another woman on communication. I like people to agree with me. And I have a high level of enthusiasm. So when I say to somebody, would you like to go to a restaurant? And they go, well, all right. The person goes, all right, thinks that they've agreed with me. And I hear a lack of enthusiasm. So I'll go, oh, well, why don't we stay home? And then they are like, but I've just agreed to go to a restaurant with you. Or, you know, if I say to somebody, shall we go and try that new restaurant? And they go, well, if you want. They think that they're giving me what I want. And what I actually want is a much higher level of energy. Wow. And it's very confusing for those people. And I have a lot of friends. And it was certainly a problem in my marriage, because I married an introvert and I'm an extrovert. But I have that, and it comes from, you know, the way I was brought up and my culture and everything. But I need a very enthusiastic response. Whereas other people think that when they've just agreed to do what I do, that I should just be happy with that. Yes. But it's not because either of us are being difficult. It's just a very different way of communication that comes from your family. Or in Ireland, we have a tendency to be quite, we're much more polite. So in Spain, I find it very difficult when people don't say please and thank you. And then, but if you say the way por favor y gracias too much, you're being condescending and saying. So like when I say por favor, and I find it very difficult, like even at work. I mean, I've been exploring artificial intelligence, you know, and using ChatGPT, and I had to ask it the other day, should I be using please and thank you? And they were like, well, we're not ascending and building, but it is nice to maintain the formal speech. And I was like, yes, exactly. So I'd like even saying please and thank you to a robot. Whereas if I say por favor to somebody who's working for me, they take it as a very emphatic order, and it's very difficult for me, that kind of, I mean, it's all about communication. Or even in Spain, as a good example, it's very normal to comment on somebody's appearance here. You know, to say, oh, you look tired, or you've gained weight, or you've lost weight. Whereas in my culture, you know, my best friend wouldn't say that to me unless they were really worried, and then they would frame it in a totally different way. Like in Ireland, if we want to tell somebody that we think that they're looking a little bit overweight, we say, if you're looking well, means, okay. When somebody says, oh, you're looking well, you think, oh, I better go on a diet then. But they would completely. Who ate all the pie? They say to you, oh, you've got fat. And you're like, who asked you?
Completely.
And people who you don't really even know, like, you know, not even a close friend. So that kind of thing is interesting. So I do recognize that people think I'm good at communicating in a professional level, but then I do know that I have to work on it, and I have to work on it because I live in a different culture. And sometimes it works to my advantages here. And I do have to work on it on a personal level, which is...
Yeah, because we all see, sorry for interrupting, but I find it fascinating because we all see through our own stories, don't we? So it's really interesting you saying that you need a high level of response, of enthusiasm, because you know that's what you've been born into, and that's what you're used to. And I always say it's, you know, it's that old adage, there's three sides to a story: what each person thinks, and then what's actually happened. And there's been, for me as well, I hear you, in Barcelona, in Spain, the culture. In fact, when I go back to England, I don't know if you have this as well. Sometimes I forget to say please and thank you because some people find it insulting.
Yeah. And it's very difficult to, and it doesn't feel, you know, it's just said in a different way. Yes, exactly. I totally agree.
Completely.
And in the same way as, and I think I said it to you when you're doing a class, it's like, and it's something that you know, on your journey will probably find as well. I like giving advice, and I see very clearly what I think people should do. But I've learned that non-solicited advice is not welcome. And I remember when I begin the courses, I would say I'm incredibly grateful to people who want to pay to do a course with me, because it means they want my advice. And when they followed my advice, they usually do pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy about that. But my family and closest friends do not want my advice. They don't follow it. I can see very clearly in my mind what they should be doing to live better and happier lives. And they've even said it to me. One of my friends said, we all know that if we did what you said, we'd be better off, but we're not going to. So leave it. But in a humorous way.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. And so in my 50s, I found this peace, which is great for me in that I give advice to people now when they have entered into a deal with me that want it.
Yeah.
It fulfills my need, and I enjoy it, and I take it very seriously. I spend a lot of time researching things. I read an awful lot. And I read a lot about psychology. I read a lot about business management, all the things that I like sharing with people. So I feel that I'm constantly informing myself, and then I like to share that information. And then with my friends and family, I just let them live their lives the way they want to live them, and try to, as much as possible, to be chilled about
an observer.
An observer, exactly. Distant observer.
Yes.
I do recognize it, and I mean, I'm not perfect. I still sometimes have to bite my tongue, or should have bitten my tongue.
No, I hear you on that as well, because I'll be 47 this year, and it's been my whole kind of journey has been giving advice. And it was possibly about 10 years ago, I heard from one of my shamanic teachers, only give advice when you're asked, because that other person has to go through whatever experience they need to go through to grow, to learn. And when we're giving advice here, there, and it took a lot for me as well to stop doing that. And so, the same as you say you have to rein yourself in. I hear you. And
it's a constant battle. I still think my tendency is still to give advice.
Likewise. I've got a little inner monologue going on, but it's like,
Yeah, mine doesn't always stay in her. I try.
No. So may I ask you, because obviously we spoke about how you came to the path of being the casting director, and you've also mentioned about being an empath, which is huge. And so were there any moments when you were going along that path, as empaths, we feel so much, we can get in, as you already mentioned, with artists and your friends around you, into comparison, almost like comparison overwhelm when we're starting on a journey. Can you remember any moments where you just were almost engulfed in comparison overwhelm and you nearly didn't carry on, but you said yes, and you went through it?
I mean, I think that's life, isn't it? In a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never had any. I mean, I think going from the fact that I don't do my job because it's vocational. So if I wasn't doing this, I'd be doing something else.
Yeah.
I think my motivation has normally been not to be bored.
Yes.
I'm trying to change that slightly at the moment, because I quite like to not be broke when I retire. So I've got I'm slightly skewing my life and trying to make smarter decisions at the moment, and to do things, in a slightly different way. So I don't think I've ever had the feeling, I mean, like most people, there are times when I felt slightly overwhelmed. I'm trying to think of the times in my life where I felt, overwhelmed is about making decisions about one career or another, because I've been offered jobs in production and cast and production of events and production in film and television. So at those points is when I've had to take a path, because I've known that job will take me on a different path. So I've sometimes had to, take a moment to think. I'm not a particularly overcautious person, and I'm not particularly, I don't get very easily overwhelmed.
Wonderful.
So, when people, if somebody asks me, oh, well, as you just have you ever been overwhelmed? I would have to really, really think about it, because I tend to feel when something gets really, really tough, it's almost a physical response of like, you know, biting the bit, like, you know, okay, I'll just have to get through this. And there have been those kind of moments in my life where it's been very, very tough. Normally, and I remember in my early 30s, it was extremely tough because my cousin, who was like my she was basically my best friend and like my sister, and she was dying of cancer at the time. And then quite a lot of other sort of things were happening to friends and people. And it felt like, and my brother was having his first very big bipolar incident. So I spent beginning of my 30s, and then I went to therapy because I felt like I wasn't being able to live my life because I was so involved in stuff that was happening to other people that wasn't nothing to do with them either. It was their fault, but it just, you know, I had to live that process with two of the people who were closest to me at the time. And I came out of a bad breakup of a relationship as well. So the beginning of my 30s were very painful in a way, but I went and did some therapy about it, which was very helpful. But it wasn't so much as overwhelming as a sense of like, I can't live my life because I'm having to deal with other people's
absolutely
stuff. And I found that quite difficult. But and also you can't really put yourself first. I mean, I found it difficult to work. I mean, I still haven't worked out how you put yourself first when the other person's need is so great.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
And I think empathy is something that's interesting. I think I'm less empathetic now than I was when I was younger.
Okay.
I mean, I think now I'm much more aware, and it's post-pandemic as well. You know, I don't know, because I think the pandemic is interesting in the fact that it's 2 years out of people's lives, and it depends at what stage of your life you were, how the effect would have. Like if I'd been a 12-year-old, the effect would be very different to me being a 50-something-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think my lesson, I came out thinking, oh, right, okay, so when, you know, push comes to shove, I am on my own.
Okay, yeah.
So I need to look after myself a lot better.
Yes. And you know, as you've said as well, looking after yourself so much better, that's the only way we can help others, is when we look after ourselves first as well. And talking of the pandemic, is that was when the online support really came into fruition, wasn't it? That's obviously when I did the course with you. So because that's beautiful that you're supporting and helping actors all around the world. How did that come to fruition? Was that boredom?
Yes, totally. It was very funny because I was at home, and just before the pandemic, I'd been in touch with a young filmmaker, Kristen Dania, who's a director, and we were going to do a networking event in my studio for young directors and actors, because I like organizing networking things, and I've done it my whole life, and that was that. And then when I was here, and it was very early on in the pandemic, I looked at the message the other day, it was sort of, I mean, it was by April. And I sent a message to Kristen, who I'd only met once. I said, hey, why don't we take that networking online? And he was at home and he was studying, and he was in his mid-20s, but because of his pandemic circumstance, he was living at home with his mum. So he was also had, you know, nobody in Spain, for anybody who wasn't in Spain during the pandemic, we weren't actually allowed out of our houses at all.
No, of course. Yeah.
And he was doing sort of TikTok stuff. So I was like, come and do this. And then it just took off, and then we set it up on Facebook, and then we did lots of, you know, table reads and lots of Zooms, and we were giving people things to do and meeting people and talking. And for a lot of people, it was really important and really good. And then, I mean, I didn't do any courses during the pandemic when people couldn't go out, but then afterwards, then we wrote the course that you did, which was Back to Business. And I really like doing that. I mean, you know, and I get inspired. It's still on Facebook, but I'm going to probably take it down now. And I've set up this new platform called the Actors Home. I wanted to take it off Facebook. I wanted to make it paid community, because people kind of pay attention to what they pay for, and I didn't want a lot of dead wood in it. And there was reasons. And then I found it quite exhausting being on Facebook, because
Well, you're quite a busy person.
No, well, I'm quite busy. It's not that I don't mind doing it, but it was just the fact that for me, I'm very anti-upselling.
Okay, yes,
You know,
yeah.
I'm very happy to charge like for a course. But I don't want you to do a course and then suddenly when you signed up for a course, then if I have another 20 euros, then I can have this, or
Yes.
I have something else, I'm going to do this, I can have that. And then the algorithm on Facebook keeps changing, you know, when you're not looking. And then I never promoted my courses on my group. You know, I never promoted anything that people had to sell because people couldn't find money during that time. And then every time I looked away, somebody would be promoting something or trying to sell something, and then I have to explain to them that it wasn't about that. It wasn't a platform.
About support and community.
People.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I was happy to say, oh, there's a discount on this, or very occasionally I might have said, oh, if anybody, because people have asked, they might have done that. But it wasn't the objective wasn't to make a sales funnel. And then when people started using my community as their sales funnel, but just because it's a group of people who knew, and people don't understand that, and they, you know, I didn't want to make a big thing about it, so I wanted to take that off, and then I wanted to have it somewhere that the data really wasn't on Facebook, so it's on a private platform now, which suits me better.
Yeah.
You know, so that was that, and it was just great. And I mean, I'm so grateful. It was such a nice feeling, and it's one of the things that I'm doing with the Actors Home, because the Actors Home is very much encouraging actors to help other actors, because I think you get so much joy about helping other people. And I think that sometimes actors become very, I don't know what the right word is, isolated. So that they forget about the joy, because they feel if they're not working that they have nothing to give, and they don't feel that their opinion is validated, or, you know, they don't feel empowered. And I think that if you are in the Actors Home and you see that, oh, by giving an opinion, you're helping somebody choose which headshot to use, you're helping somebody with their how to re-edit their show reel, or simply, you know, like this week, you know, there's a actress who's going to be in Germany. She asked about German agencies. People have given her some advice. Somebody else is in LA. Somebody's recommended some courses or where to find them. You know, just little by little, getting people to give each other advice when it's solicited. Because they've asked for it. I think helps people to feel happy. I think, and I'm very passionate about community, because I believe now that as we move into this digital era, it's very difficult, because you can find the answer to everything by Googling or ChatGPT, but you don't really know if it's right, because it's not a person. You know, it's like, you know, and so therefore, if you can ask advice to somebody who's real, who you know who they are, then it gives you a different perspective.
That's wonderful.
You know, and I feel like we need to be very finding our tribes as we go forward. I think it's very difficult. Because the world is so big and people are so busy now. You know, like before, I used to meet people because I'd wander around and I'd sit at a cafe, or, you know, when I used to travel a lot for work, and I would always meet somebody at the airport. Now you never meet anybody because they're always on their phone and they're very connected with their own people.
Isn't it?
Like this. Yeah. And then, so the rest of the time, so I think that by trying to find your tribe who have the same interests as you and the same fears as you, and you're on, you know, I think together we really do rise.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful incentive, because you can't brainstorm with Google. You can't run lines with Google. That's gorgeous, really lovely. And also because when actors go online to do your courses, then there's also a kind of an element, oh, it's Luci Lenox, and zip. But I remember you're very, very inclusive and asking people's opinions. That's gorgeous. So to allow people on the platform to get in touch with each other, and I imagine role play together, I guess, as well.
Yeah, they can do their themes, they can do all kinds of things, whatever they want.
Wonderful. I'll put all the information for people to get in touch. That's gorgeous. So there's a new incentive coming, which is basics to bookings. Because one of my questions to you was, if there's somebody who, or many people who've had, you know, I've always really enjoyed the theatre, always really enjoyed arts, but have never quite dipped their toe in. And it's really interesting because I asked you the question a couple of days ago, and now you've created basics to booking. So this is for people, this is for everybody, I imagine, is it?
Yeah, it's particularly for people who want to work as an actor, or who've got that, feeling that they really want to do it, because a lot of those people have applied to do, the reason that we have designed this course is because a lot of people are applying to do the other courses at my studio in Barcelona. Because we do a scene study class where you don't have to have any formal training, but unfortunately, not unfortunately, but it's for actors.
Yes.
And so there were a lot of people who weren't actors, and we take them sometimes. I had a really good, student who was a poker champion, and he just wanted to improve his acting skills, and he was, but then because it's become quite well known, the course, then more and more people are reaching out, and then they've been saying, oh, but we do need to do some training as an actor. And I'm like, yes, acting does require some training. And then we thought, well, why don't we design a course just for those people, for the people who are, because after the pandemic as well, a lot of people. And I think going forward, people can make their money in much quicker ways than before. So then they have more free time to live their dreams. People are also much more aware that, you should be doing what you love.
Yes, yeah.
That's the thing.
Follow
your heart. So this is a course for people who want to follow their heart, and they want to, they're adults, so they don't necessarily want to go to a full-time drama training.
Yeah.
And then it will give them some information. Obviously, it's only a week, but then they can decide whether they want to go on to do some training. They want to just work in commercials, and it will give them a basis to begin with. So it's the basics to booking. We'll be talking about what the career is about. It's a bit of improvisation, being with like-minded people, and and it's also for people who are models, who haven't had any acting training but would like some more acting training, or sports people. A lot of people who want to get into acting and they haven't quite kind of worked out what it really is and what it would entail.
Brilliant. That's what a gorgeous incentive. That's really, really lovely. And also talking of other gorgeous incentives, because you support so many. You support diversity, you support acceptance of all, which is absolutely wonderful. And the world's changing so much. We're going so much towards the divine feminine, which is so much more heart-based. And also you support actors without borders.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of those things support. I'm just part of them. It's just it's one of those things. It's like, I mean, when we talk about diversity and inclusion in casting, we were talking about it a lot when I was at the Cannes Festival this year, and I really think we should just call it accuracy, because that's the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Accuracy in casting, so that we're representing the global majority in a much better way.
I love that, accuracy, instead of instead of honing in on, because there's no separation.
No, there's no separation, and I don't feel, I mean, I'm on lots of inclusion and diversity committees, and I'm always saying the same thing, because I don't feel like I'm including people. I feel like we are all included, and we are all diverse. It's very important to keep saying that and to be aware of that, because it's not like, and I am very much the global minority, not the global majority. I am a red-headed white person, which means I'm one of the very, very, very specific minorities, but who will get burnt in Spain if I go out in the sun this year again. But it's just like, but it's very complicated, and it's very complicated that, we have to be aware of history, and we have to be aware of the narratives that we get involved in as artists, as creators, as actors, because we're very much limited in our narratives at the moment. And even I was really disappointed to read that Netflix in the UK had been supporting diverse narratives, and they've decided that they're not going to make any of these projects that they've been supporting because they're not ready in some way. And I'm not giving you the exact details because I don't know them. But it's on the press. But they had a scheme that was to get new narrative, new writers, etc. And then they've decided they want to go back to the sort of bit boring commercial stuff. And it's like, it's very difficult, because we're in a world where the lowest common denominator wins. So people will watch a Marvel, studio picture because it's being promoted so heavily that we feel like we have to watch it.
Yeah.
Also, it's very easy to watch in today's attention deficit world because there's so little text that you can look at your phone, then you go back to it, then you can do this, then you can do that. Whereas if you're watching a complicated narrative about, a Syrian historical story, you have to actually pay attention.
And really immerse yourself. Yeah. That's such a shame Netflix has done that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one small program that they had, and it was just. I read about it in the news. And I'm thinking, the world. We have to keep fighting, but we also have to fight with our feet. Like we have to go and see these projects. We have to make sure that we're watching stuff that is a little bit more challenging, a little bit more flawed than the perfect. It's a bit like, I mean, it's the same as with your diet. It's like eating organic vegetables. Requires more effort, and they don't look quite as shiny as that perfect, strawberry.
I like that analogy. That's fabulous. Yeah. If there's been anybody who has experienced, not a very nice situation for whatever reason, for whether the way they looked or just there was some judgment there, and they were in an audition process, or equally they got some information that was absolutely wrong and they paid some money out towards a company who said, we're going to put you in this, but you have to pay us. Basically, they've been stung. They've been burnt in whatever way that feels, and they feel that they just want to hide and go back into their shell and not follow their hearts because that happened. What would your words be? I'm not saying of wisdom. What would your words be? What would your advice be to anybody in that situation? Please.
It's very difficult. Like the advice. I mean, my situation. I mean, I think that resilience is something that we have to learn. So that it's very complicated. Like because it would depend on the person, but it's. Don't let anybody kind of rain on your parade.
Love that. Yeah.
And I mean, another of the, it's a meme really, but it's, I always use it. It's like love many, trust few, always paddle your own canoe. And it's one of those things that I think that people should be very aware that it's not easy. Life's not easy. People will criticize you for how you look. Like, I mean, even this week in my office, we made a mistake because I wanted to do for a commercial we're doing, we needed somebody who had to look in a very certain way.
Okay.
Barbie style. But it's because of the roles, there's lots of diversity in the thing. And then one of my sisters said, let's put this up on social media because we're looking for somebody. And they said, woman who has been, had her lips done and had her tits done. In the correct way of saying that. I'm like, no, let's not put that. Like I said, nobody will identify with that. So let's just put very good looking with big lips and Barbie style. So muy guapa. So then we posted that, and then lots of people complained, including people who work for me, saying that you can't say muy guapa, very good looking, because then we're saying that that's the style that's very good looking. And I hadn't even thought of it because I think everybody's beautiful. So just saying very good looking with big lips and Barbie style, I thought was covering it. It's not being exclusive, but then it's a canon of beauty that the people who don't espouse to that criticize. But all the ladies who applied for the job were perfect. They got one of them even said, and I've got a pink Audi if you need one, just like Barbie, because that's what they like. And and I'm not going to criticize them either, but you have to be very careful. But what is something I really believe on is like self-esteem, self-love, and work on that. And it's so difficult. One of the things I do with actors, I say, look at your work, think about what you do that's right first.
Nice.
I also think that people should have their own personal projects. So if you're an actor, you should find a tribe, find people, and always have something that you're working on your own. I don't mean a B plan, that's fine as well. Like, I think that people should have different streams of income. And I think that's very important. I think you shouldn't, there was a narrative before, oh, you shouldn't have a plan B if you want to be an actor. I think you should have streams of income in today's world that mean that you never feel uncomfortable financially, so that you're never going to an audition thinking, if I don't get this, I won't eat. I don't think desperation helps actors. I don't think poverty helps actors. I think feeling safe does. So whatever you do to make yourself feel safe, and also talk to yourself kindly, have a good inner voice, so that if you have an inner voice that's saying you're not good enough, you're not beautiful enough, try to do some therapy. Whatever that means. It might be self-therapy, it might be self-healing, it might be, whatever works for you, but make sure that you are talking to yourself in a kind and supportive manner.
Yeah.
And make sure that you are looking at what you're doing as an artist and thinking, what's right about it, what's good about it, what am I strong at? Because so often what happens as actors go forward in their career, there's so much rejection inherent in an actor's career that they keep adding, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I didn't do this right, I didn't do this right. And this creates insecurity. And insecurity creates anxiety. Anxiety is one of the things that, and depression. And anxiety is also one of the things that detracts people.
Yes.
When somebody's anxious, and it's very difficult, and it's been a big problem in the last couple of years from the pandemic, which to lots of anxiety in people, is there's something about anxiety that irritates other people, or detracts them. It's not an attractive. Nobody's ever said, oh, I really want to go and hang out with a load of anxious people.
No.
Or, oh, I'd like to employ somebody who's anxious.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, and it's weird because depression, which is awful, can create great art.
Yes. Yeah.
But anxiety can't.
No.
I think. Anyway, that's my view. So if we're working on that, then, and just finding things as well that give you joy.
Being your own best friend.
Being your own best friend is very important. And then as an actor, if you go and do something that makes you feel good about your acting, go and do a play, go and do a monologue, go and do something, make a skit for YouTube or evil TikTok or whatever it is that you want to do, but do something that makes you feel empowered, happy, and that you're enjoying your life.
I like that. So just have fun as well, because because one of the questions, and it's just yes, I know, is how important is it to have fun in the
absolutely
without
the most important thing. The most important, I mean, and it's going to be more important as you go forward. It's like try to find the people who make you laugh, or even I was watching a really weird thing yesterday. It has got to do with it, but it was something for Cannes Lions is on at the moment, which is the big advertising festival. Okay. And I was watching a talk from one of the top people there, and they were talking about humor. And they were saying, I mean, it's a very evil advertising talk, but they were saying people want brands to be funny. Like we even want our ads to be fun, and they sell better. So I mean, fun is something that we need to be bringing back in a huge amount, I would have thought.
Yeah, hugely. Not take ourselves so seriously and just enjoy life, because we're all here for an experience anyway.
Exactly.
Brilliant. So this is I mean, obviously we've spoken about actors and you've already covered it, which is great in terms of, it's good to have a plan B, but also what about people, would you say, if they don't necessarily want to go down that route forever, but it's something they would like to just have a little play with or experience, would you encourage that or
yes,
not really?
100%. I mean, I think, for example, in Ireland we have a lot of amateur dramatics. My dad does it, my dad's been in plays, my dad's been in films. Like, I love going to amateur dramatics, like in Ireland, in my town, because it's a different kind of art form. But it's something like, I think that stand-up is very big at the moment. A lot of people are doing stand-up. Impro, going to be anything that can get you moving, connecting and communicating and going back to and having fun is perfect. Like the more that people could do that, the better. And I think that, I think there's a big thing that I'm hoping has changed since the pandemic, and that we don't slip back into it. I was talking about it with a friend of mine who's an artist, and a Steiner. She teaches Steiner art, and she was saying that one of the biggest problems is that, and this is a conversation we had in 2019, is that in this age people do things for a reason.
Yeah.
Like you paint because you're going to sell your paintings, you act because you're going to have a career, you cook because you're going to do this. And there's this kind of, you know, we should be doing things just because we love doing them. And the dolce far niente makes the world a much lighter place. You know, the pleasure of doing nothing, or the pleasure of doing something for no reason other than the pleasure. And I think that's something that needs to be brought back, particularly as we move into this kind of digital era. Like, should be, you know, reading a book just because we like reading, not reading a book because we're going to learn something.
Yes.
And you should act just because you like acting, and you should, you know, and it's something to do in your free time, because otherwise we're all going to become couch potatoes.
Yes.
And social media addicts.
Yes.
And I think the more you act for love, for fun, the better. Yeah. And the more you just do things, whether it's singing or painting, anything that's cultural, there's a very strong reason why we have culture and why we have storytelling. And it's not to do with becoming a Hollywood star. It's to do with sharing a narrative. It's like even things like charades that we used to play, you know, with kids and my grandparents. Nowadays, it's very difficult to get a child off, you know, their phone. And the more you do those kind of things, the more likely it is that you'll be resilient.
Yes.
I think. I mean, I think they're the things that people forget how important they are.
No, I completely agree. And you mentioned my favorite charades. We were brought up from a really young age with charades, and my niece and nephew, my nephew just turned 21, my niece will be 19. They had that, you know, they had fun and they played. Yes, they had their whatever they're called, iPads and all the rest of it, but you know, they immersed themselves. And I completely agree with what you're saying about, and it's one of the things I talk about a lot as well, is just immerse yourself into something without judgment, you know, draw, paint, sing, act, and just just let yourself go free and no judgment, just enjoy the moment. And that's fabulous. Love it. So thank you so much for being here. I hugely appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and lovely as always chatting to you. Love your positive spirit, great questions, and good luck with your second edition of the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Well, you don't need luck, but I wish you all the blessings, all the luck, all the world. Thank you for all
and lots of fun for both of us.
Sorry?
Lots of fun.
Loads of fun.
For both of us. Excellent. All right then. Well, thank you very much. All right then. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us. A huge thank you to Lucy for her incredible generosity. And I will pop all the information about the Actors Home in the information for you to get in touch and to learn more about Lucy's work. And also, if you would like to be involved in any of the courses at Frankenstein Studio, online, Actors Home, all of that will be there. Sending you all the love, and we'll see you on the next episode.